If you want to add realistic fire to your scene, it's really easy to do and only takes a few minutes to set up. And you don't need any complicated effects. All you need is a video clip. And for this project, I'll be using a free video that I found on Vecteezy. And there's a link in the description if you want to use it in your own projects. Now, since I'm using a video on a flat plane, there are some limitations. If you move too far around to the side, you can see the fire is flat, and that breaks the illusion. But if you're just looking straight on, or even moving around a little bit from side to side, this works fine. So over here, I have another barrel with some planes already scaled and moved into position. Just make sure once you're done moving and scaling your planes, switch to object mode and then hit Ctrl A and apply scale to each of them. Otherwise, when you apply the fire in the shading editor, you could get some weird results. So I'm going to switch to the shading workspace, and with this front plane selected, I'll hit New to create a new material, and I'll call it Fire-01. And I don't need this principled BSDF, so I'll delete it. Then I'll open up my file browser and drag and drop the video into the editor. And I'll plug it into the surface input on the material output node. And now you can see the fire here on the plane, but it's really skinny and stretched out, which means I need to UV map the plane. So I'll jump over to the UV editor, and I use a plugin called ZenUV for UV editing, because I really don't like Blender's UV tools. If you're looking for a good plugin, I highly recommend ZenUV. You can find it on Superhive, and it's worth every penny, in my opinion. So to UV map this plane, I'll window select all 4 edges, then I'll click here to mark seams, and then click Zen Unwrap, and that's it. But you see the fire isn't showing up on the plane because it's pushed over to one side. So with the object selected, I'll just move it over until the fire is centered on the plane. And now I'll jump back over to the shading workspace, and you see the fire is looking much better. But I need to get rid of all this black around the flames. So we'll add a mix shader and a transparent BSDF. I'll drop the mix shader on the line to connect it up. Then I'll plug the fire into the bottom shader input and the transparent node into the top shader input. And that's sort of working, but you can still see the black a little bit. So I'll plug the fire into the factor input, and now the black is completely gone and only the fire is visible. But I want it to be a little brighter, so I'll add an emission node. And I'll drop it on the line, right here, where the fire plugs into the bottom shader input. And now if I bump the strength up to 3, it's looking much brighter. And since I'm going to be recording a video, I'll need to enable cyclic and auto refresh. And my video will be 250 frames, so I'll change the frame setting to 250. And now I want to check to see how this is looking, so I'll hover my cursor right here on the border between these 2 windows, then right-click and select horizontal split. Then I'll drag up to create a new window. And I'll click this button right here to change the editor type to timeline. And now I can hit play to get a preview of the animation. It's really jumpy in the viewport, but it'll be fine when you render out a video. So now I need to set up these other 3 planes, which will be really simple since I already have this material set up. So I'll select all these nodes, right-click, and copy. Then I'll select this blank plane, click New to create a new material. I'll call it Fire-02, and then right-click and paste. Then I'll delete these 2 nodes, and now I have fire on this plane. And again, I'll need to jump over to the UV editor and do a quick UV map. And now back in the shading workspace, I have fire on these 2 planes. But you'll notice that they look exactly the same. And if I hit play, the flames are both moving the same way, and that's not realistic. So with this plane selected, I'll need to change the start frame. So I'll set it to 24. And now when I hit play, you see they're each moving independently. And now I just need to set up these other 2 planes. So again, I'll copy these nodes, select this 3rd plane, hit New. I'll call it Fire-03 and right-click and paste. I'll delete these two nodes. Then I'll do a quick UV map. I'll set the start frame to 69. And that's looking pretty good. So now I'll set up this last plane the same way I did the others. Copy the nodes, create a new material, call it Fire-04, paste the nodes, do a UV map, and for this one, I'll set the start frame to 150. And over here in the Layout tab, I can move these around and scale them up or down until they look about right. And now if I hit play, that's looking pretty good. But there's one more thing I like to do, which is to add a light right here behind the fire. And you can add a point light if you want, but for this project, I'll hit Shift A and add an area light, because I just want the light to project onto the back wall. And I'll move it and scale it down so it fits inside the barrel. I'll set the color to a light orange. And I'll leave the power set to 10. And now if I turn the light off and back on, you can see what it's doing. So I think that's looking pretty good. And if you're just doing a single rendered image, that's really all you need to do. But if you're going to do an animation, you'll want to animate the light to get that flickering effect. And to do that, make sure your timeline is set at 0, then select the area light. Come over to the light properties and click this little dot next to the power value to add a keyframe. Then come over here and switch from the timeline to the graph editor. Then come over to the modifiers tab and add a noise modifier. And for the blend type, I'll set this to add. And I'll set the strength to about 20. And I'll set the scale to 8. And that should create a subtle flickering effect. You can play around with the strength and scale if you want more flickering and brighter flashes, but these are the settings that I used for my video. And now if I switch back to the timeline and start moving the slider, you can see the light is flickering slightly on the wall, getting brighter and dimmer as I move the slider along. And now if I just want a single rendered image, I'll hit the 0 key on the number pad to jump into my camera view and move the timeline slider until I find a frame that looks good, and then hit render. If you want to render out a video in vertical 9:16 format for posting on social media, these are the settings that I used for my video. In the render properties, I'm using cycles and GPU compute. For the noise threshold, I have that set to 0.2. I have denoise enabled, and I'm using the default settings. For light paths, I decreased all of these except for transparent. If I turn this setting down, you see the planes turn black. So it's important to leave this one set to 8. In performance, I have persistent data enabled, which helps speed up rendering, so Blender doesn't have to recalculate everything for every frame of the video. In the output properties, I have the resolution set to 1080 by 1920, and if I hit 0 to jump into camera view, you can see how the video will look in vertical format. I have the frame rate set at 24 FPS, and I have my start and end frames set here at 1 and 250. In the output section, I have my folder set for saving files. The media type is set to image, and the file format is set to PNG. And the reason I have this set to image instead of video is in case Blender crashes, I won't lose everything. I can simply come back up here, and if Blender crashed on frame 150, I can change the start frame to 150 and start rendering again from that frame. So once you have everything set, just come up here and hit Render Animation. After Blender finishes rendering out all the image frames, you can save your file, then go to New, Video Editing. Then come down here, go to the Add menu and choose Image Sequence. Then browse to the folder where your images are saved, select the first image, scroll down and shift select the last image. Make sure to change the fit method to Use Original Size, and then click Add Image Strip. Then drag the sequence down to channel 1 and snap to the blue line. Now up here in the preview window, you can see that the video is not in vertical format. So come over to the Output Properties, and you need to swap these. So you'll want to change the X value to 1080 and the Y value to 1920. And now it's correct. Then just go through and make sure all the other settings look correct. The frame rate, the start and end frames. You'll want to specify a folder location to save your video. The media type should be set to video. For encoding, you'll want to use this H.264 codec with the MPEG-4 container. And for the output quality, I like to set this to high quality, and I'll leave the speed set to good. And that's about it. So I'll come back up here and hit Render Animation, and here's the final video. Okay, so that's about it for this one. Hopefully it was helpful. And if you want to see how to animate fog and dust particles, or learn how to customize your Blender workspace, check out one of these videos. And before you go, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.